All right, welcome everyone to the asynchronous portion of the 2024 IPM Center, Western IPM Center Advisory Committee meeting. Today I'm going to continue the discussion about the center's strategic plan, and specifically here I'm going to be talking about some communications efforts. So last year, if you remember back to last year, I sent slides around that talked about the theory of change, and it also talked about how we might expand the integrated pest management, or IPM, network. When talking about the theory of change, of course, we were talking about how that theory of change could help us as a framework to better measure our impacts and assess our efforts. And we also talked about ways that we could expand the IPM network to include those disciplines that don't routinely identify as being affiliated with integrated pest management. This time around, or today, what I'd like to talk about is some of the audiences that we would like to reach. So this was very early on in the strategic planning process when we developed this particular diagram. What this diagram shows you is our stakeholders, what we consider to be our stakeholders, and their level of influence and interest in what the Western IPM Center does. So along the horizontal axis, you can see interest pictured. So from going from left to right, it goes from low interest in what we're doing to high interest. And then along the vertical axis, you've got influence over our ability to do what we need to do, going from low at the bottom to high influence at the top. And up in the top left-hand quadrant are listed two stakeholders. One is legislators, abbreviated LEG, and then also leadership within the land-grant university systems. And I would like to focus on this quadrant for today. So integrated pest management, of course, is a mature science, and as a mature science, it gets its funding from a variety of different sources, and both in the public and the private sectors. And this is important because oftentimes it's program managers at these different funding agencies that will help to transmit those success stories to their leadership, whether that's in the public or the private sector. That helps to amplify that message and make sure that folks are aware of those efforts. But because integrated pest management gets funding from so many different sources, it seems like that effort is a bit fragmented and therefore maybe not as coordinated as it could be. And we feel like this might be one of the factors that's influencing our ability to reach those stakeholders that have high influence over what we do and low interest. So what I'm proposing is that the center could play a larger role in this kind of outreach. So up in the top left-hand corner is the center network with the center core staff in orange, us reaching out to those folks who are affecting policy. And then in so doing, we could reverse this trend that we've seen over the last 4 or 5 decades of reduced public funding in the research and development, ag research and development. And that's what's shown in this diagram up in the top right-hand corner. The blue line shows you public funding into food and agriculture over the last 4 or 5 decades. And you can see that that line has been declining here recently. And we feel like that declining funding from the public sector is likely to restrict or hinder our ability to reach our vision, which is a healthier West with fewer pests. I also wanted to point out here that this, what I'm talking about today, aligns well with the Public IPM Enterprise Strategic Plan, which is being developed by the National IPM Coordinating Committee, which is a subcommittee within the APLU, which is the American Public Land Grant University System. And awareness is one of the awareness of pest management and integrated pest management successes is one of the areas that this strategic plan felt like the committee could in fact play a role, and that should be addressed in this strategic plan. So the center does have resources committed to communicating IPM successes. We have Steve Elliott, who most of his time is devoted to this. We have Emma Tribble, about 20% of her time is devoted to communicating successes, and then about 20% of my time is devoted to this. You know, that gives you about a little over a person working in this area, but of course that's not devoted principally to, you know, policy type communications. So that's the core staff where you've got about a person, but then you've also got these other aspects of the IPM center, the extended core, as well as the IPM network, and then of course the extended network, which is what we talked about last time, which is an area where we would like to grow. Still working on that. When we think about the extended core, it listed here by function, you've got the network coordinators, Danny Lytle, Al Fournier, Marion Murray, excuse me, Natalie Hein-Ferris, and myself. You've got the signature programs. Network coordination is one of the signature programs, but then you've also got 4 additional signature programs. The crop pest losses and impact assessment program, which is headed up by Peter Ellsworth and Al Fournier. The new and recurring pests, sort of the invasive species signature program, that's headed up by Kasim Al-Khatib. The decision support tool, which is mostly housed at uspest.org, which is headed up now by Sylvia Rondon at OSU, Oregon State. And of course, the Pesticide Risk Management Communication Project, which is headed up by Paul Jepson, who has recently retired from Oregon State. We've got the center leadership, which includes myself, the 4 co-directors who are also leaders on the signature programs, as well as the advisory committee. And then we've got the, you know, the folks that I kind of spoke about early on, which is our core group of center staff that produce non-technical communication. That's Steve Elliott and Emma, and then technical communications, which are myself and Emma. And I think that, you know, maybe the policy information falls under the non-technical communications area, although I do believe that it's some of my responsibility as well to work on those policy documents. So what I'm really proposing is that the center start to play more of a role in reaching out to state and federal legislators, as well as you know, administrators at the land-grant universities and other interested parties, and make sure that those people have the information that they need to assess the impact of our programs. You know, many years ago, during the Regional Technical Committee for Integrated Pest Management in the West, Laura Levine, who is at Washington State University, mentioned 2 sites which have been used predominantly by administrators in the land-grant university system to identify projects that they can highlight in their communications. This is landgrantimpacts.org, as well as MRFimpacts.org. To be honest with you, we haven't really done very much there, and it might be something that we need to consider doing, you know, making more of an effort there to assure that our administrators in the land-grant universities have the information that they need. We also spoke several years ago about the possibility of spending more time working on social media posts. It is certainly true, I'm sure, that many of the staffers, both in the legislative as well as the executive branches, certainly are using social media. So it might make sense for us to use that social media, those social media platforms, as a way to reach those folks more routinely, to assure that they have the information that they need to, really understand the impacts of some of these programs and how much their stakeholders are really benefiting from these efforts. So that's just some suggestions that I'm hoping that the advisory committee can kind of think through. And if we have time in Las Cruces, I'm hoping that we can continue this discussion. Thank you.